As a veteran sync agent, my pitches got rejected 3,247 times over the past 5 years. I spent a couple weeks diving into the data and I learned something extraordinary. Now, if you're getting rejected constantly and wondering if you should give up on sync licensing, I tracked every single rejection I received over 5 years, and the patterns revealed something that nobody talks about. I'm going to share with you how it led to our breakthrough sync placement formula. This is the only comprehensive rejection analysis in the sync industry, and it will change how you approach every pitch. And to help with this, I brought in my partner, Michael Elsner from Elite Music Coaching, and Michael is going to share something with you from our new book, Sync Titan Secrets.
What's up, Mike? Yes, Jody, Sync Titan Secrets. Here we go. I want to start with chapter 7. Something very interesting at the beginning of chapter 7. Hopefully my camera will focus on it, but maybe not. There it is. Boom, there you have it. So we're going to start with a pretty fun quote about sync. It's not magic. It's not magic, but it is hard work. It's very fulfilling work, by the way. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it's a lot better than a stay-poor-slowly scheme. So this is very interesting. Musicians often approach sync licensing like a sprint. They create some music, send it out, and expect immediate results. When placements don't materialize quickly, they either give up or frantically change strategies, never stepping back to learn what really works. Those who build sustainable sync careers recognize that sync is actually a marathon. They think in terms of years, not weeks and months. They build systems that compound over time rather than chasing tactics that promise quick wins. And I want to address one thing about this that I think is very powerful. I've been in licensing now for 21, 22 years from the time that we're filming this. And very little has changed. The main thing that has changed when it comes to landing placements is the delivery aspect. When I first got into this space, we actually had to print up CDs. Proximity was very important then, right?
Yeah.
I would print up CDs and then I'd have to get in my car and I'd have to take them around to, various offices in Los Angeles and Santa Monica and actually get into the hands of the right people. And then, 2007, 2008, things changed a little bit. Now we had FTP servers. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was a catastrophe. And now we have it to where we can literally just send large files, like that. And it's unbelievable. That's really all that's changed. Beyond that, the actual process of securing a license, the process of delivering valuable content to your end users, the process of making those files easily searchable and ultimately licensable, very little of that has changed. So it is hard work. It requires you to actually understand that sync is a completely different pursuit and has a whole bunch of different requirements other than what we've all learned as musicians coming from the traditional music industry path. And I have found, and I know Jody has too, that a lot of the musicians who struggle with licensing and get very frustrated and they bail on it without giving it a chance, as we say here, when the placements don't materialize quickly, they either give up or frantically change strategies, never stepping back to learn what really works. The strategy has been the same for the last 20, 21, 22 years that I've been in this space. The strategy of landing placements has not changed. The methodology of delivery has changed. But the biggest and I think most important aspect is actually learning the system that will allow you to provide value to end users, people like Jody. I would love to hear your breakdown, Jody, of why those 3,000 placements on your end did not land.
Yeah, well, before we get into that, I'm having a bunch of aha moments over here. Most musicians are coming into sync and they quit early versus sticking around. I think it's happening. It's just occurred to me. It's just a new take on what we've been talking about for years. They come into sync and they don't hear back, right? They send their music out to music supervisors like me, and we don't respond because they're not approaching it the right way. We talked about this. There's other videos about that. If you want to watch other videos or listen to other episodes, you can go do that. And they immediately think it's like the music industry. They're just saying my art's no good. They're just rejecting my art. And because they get the door slammed on them, again, they think it's just another music industry pursuit. It's the same bullshit, different place. And it's not. It's actually very, very, very different. And the way you're approaching it is not the right way. And we talk about this, well, in our sync placement formula. It's a key part of that. So most musicians are coming in and they quit because that's their first experience. And they think this is just another music pursuit. And it's not. And the breakthroughs, they don't happen until about for most people, it's 1 to 2 years. And you're talking about a marathon. You're talking about building a career for the rest of your life. 2 years work is not a long time to have a lifelong career doing something you love. Whereas the music industry pursuit, it is all based on your art. And now it's based on having fans and all that stuff first, but it's still based on the art. And when your art doesn't stick, you go to the next A&R person and the next A&R person. It's literally like buying lottery tickets. There's no marathon there. It is a get rich quick scheme from day one. And you're trying to get rich and famous very quick. Yeah. And that will never end. That is an endless pursuit for most artists. Sync is not like that. You put in the time, you set up your business, and after 2 years work, the wheels start turning. Yeah. I mean, we see it again and again inside of Sync Titan with our Sync Titans. The ones who stick around and put in the work and show up and practice what we teach, practice everything inside this book, they're the ones who are seeing the gears start to turn. I saw someone post the other day, Mike, that they came into our world. It was literally like 2 years ago. And they signed their first deal with Warner Chappell. They got 19 songs they're doing with them.
Wow.
With Warner Chappell.
That's awesome. That's huge.
Who watching this right now wants to do a deal with Warner Chappell?
That's one of the biggest publishers. That's massive. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I'm scrolling through the book here a little bit more in chapter 7, and I want to read a little bit that was written here. It says the marathon mindset, which is what you're talking about, requires fundamentally different thinking than the sprint mentality that dominates much of the music industry. Instead of looking for immediate gratification, you're building foundations that will support long-term success. A project that does not pay, I'm skipping around a little bit, a project that does not pay much today might provide valuable experience, relationships, or reputation building that pays dividends for years. Conversely, a lucrative short-term opportunity might not be worth pursuing if it does not align with your long-term goals. Obviously, this is a little more superficial than what we go into a little deeper here into the chapter. But there's a lot of truth to the fact that when you actually have that system in place, that the system does the heavy lifting, right? And I find that in my conversations, having lived in Los Angeles and living in Nashville for as long as I did, 14 and a half years, there's a lot of, I kind of call it the squirrel mentality, where you pursue something hard for like 7 days and then there's something else that's kind of shining and you look and you go down that road. I also see it with people in the online space who are literally trying to consume every piece of sync information. And then, of course, they're going to get different conflicting information. You're going to get that no matter what you do. Yeah. If someone's teaching you how to drive a car, you're going to get conflicting information on, how to drive a car. This person says every time I get in my car, I should go check the oil, Yeah. Okay.
This guy says, I got to be at 10 and 2 at all times. And my dad says I can just hold it on the bottom and go like that.
Yeah. And the reality is that to me gets more in the way, right? Because you're always looking for like that aha moment. And we say it all the time, like sync licensing is easy. Yeah. Sync licensing, it is easy in the sense that the system is there. The systems are in place. There's really no guesswork. It is difficult or hard in a way. Easy does not mean effortless. It's probably a better way to say it, right? Like easy does not mean effortless. So even though landing placements is easy, it does require effort. You do have to put in the work, but you also have to follow the system, And I know that when I have talked to many, many, many musicians who struggle to land placements, when I ask them very simple questions about where they're at in our particular system, they have no idea. Or they skip around because they don't know the system. So, when I lived in Nashville and I would talk to a musician who's like, I've been trying to land my placements for a while. I will literally just ask a question regarding the second step of the process. Have you created, all your alternate versions and stems? And then they kind of have like that, that Bambi look or whatever, where they're, their eyes get big. I guess it was maybe like in the movie Rudolph, where like they kind of freak out and the eyes get big or whatever.
Yeah.
And at that point, I know that's the second step of the process. When they look confused in the second step of the process, even if they're trying to send their music out, which is the fourth step, I already know they're going to fail.
Yeah.
I already know they're going to fail. And the thing that's nice about the system is you can just ask a simple yes or no question. And if the answer is no, that's where you need to focus. Yeah. Have you created your alternate mixes and stems? No. All right. But I've been sending it out to all these people. Doesn't matter. That's step 4. You haven't done step 2, which means that what you're sending out to all those people in step 4 is actually useless to them.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to just go through the system, yes or no question. Have you done this? Yes, I have. Awesome. Have you created all your metadata? No. Okay. Well, now you're on step 3. So you don't have to worry about sending it out to people yet and your contacts because you haven't actually created the value in steps 1, 2, and 3. You haven't fully created that yet. Once you can confidently answer yes to the yes or no questions, have you created sync ready tracks? Yes. Have you created the valuable content, the deliverables? Yes. Have you created all the metadata? Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Now you're ready to actually find your ideal clients and send it out. And then at that point, that's when you're going to let all the heavy lifting here in the formula take care of you. And what we find is so many people skip those middle steps.
Absolutely. Now, there's one data point that I'd like to share about this this study that I did here. And what I learned, this is really interesting. This is in regard to libraries and sync agents and a time that they actually accept your music. So it's really, there are these patterns, these seasonal patterns. And actually right now, we're in November right now. November into December is one of the higher times of acceptance into a library because these agencies, they're in fourth quarter, they're thinking ahead to next year about what they need to, and as things slow down in the industry, aside from some TV shows and some commercials, a lot of stuff will start to slow down November, December, leading into the holidays. And then it picks up really quickly and it comes out hard in January. So people are looking at, well, what's coming up next year? You've got 2026, the World Cup. The World Cup's a big one. That's going to be next year in 2026 in the US. So there's a lot of libraries and sync agents thinking right now, well, what music do I need in my catalog to serve the World Cup next summer so that they can start signing and processing exactly what you said, Mike, getting the valuable content, getting the metadata dialed in, and then putting it in their systems. They need those. They need all that. They will not do it without that. But this is one of those seasonal patterns that really kicks in right now. And nobody really talks about this because I don't know why. Maybe they don't want people to know that, hey, now's the time to hit them up. If you wait until January, well, now you're in the first quarter and the wheels are moving and they've got their funding already approved for new signings and new advances. So now you're looking at the next time to really get in. I think what I saw here was April, May, at the end of first quarter. Okay, we can start like bringing in new stuff and looking ahead to what's next in the fall. So they're always looking ahead at what market are we trying to serve? What's new? What's changing? And what type of music do we need in our catalogs to serve the market? That's how these sync agents, these libraries are thinking.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing also with holiday. We find that all the time. As we get into October, November, and into December, that's when we have people pitching the holiday songs. Like, oh, I have all these songs with sleigh bells. That's awesome. So the productions that are now coming out that are the holiday features, those were done in May and June. I remember when I was in the music industry, when I was actually making records, I remember it was June or July. I did a Christmas record with a very big vocal band. And it was wild, because we're in the studio mixing these Christmas songs, basically. And then you'd walk outside. It was, of course, the middle of the summer in Nashville. It was a very interesting experience to come from being in the room, which felt very holiday-esque. You just wanted to have your hot apple cider, and go home and unwrap some presents. And then you just stepped out into the sweltering humidity of Tennessee. But that's what happens, and when you look at the actual productions, it's very interesting to even go look at like the Hallmark films. Hallmark is just a massive, holiday, outlet for holiday songs.
And now it's year round. Yeah. Now they produce content year round.
Year
That's
round,
it.
but it's
Yeah.
very interesting to go to IMDb and actually
Yeah.
see when these shows were filmed.
Yeah.
And they were filmed usually up in Canada in, February and March.
Yeah.
And
They
at
want the
that point,
sunshine.
they're
Yeah.
going into post-production in April and May.
That's right.
And so if you want to get your songs into those programs, then the time not to pitch it is with the wrong time to pitch it is October, November, December.
Yeah. They don't want to film while it's actually snowing out. They want fake snowflakes that look like cotton candy powder. And
what is another takeaway from that assessment of the 3,000 rejections?
Yeah, well, yeah, here's the thing. So certain types of rejections were actually predicting what would work. So as I was pitching, and this is for my catalogs and my partners that I work with. So it's going to be different for everyone. But for me, what I noticed people would start accepting was vintage material, vintage records, ethnic, regional sounding content. So I chose to lean into that. And now I'm getting a ton of placements from all this content that I lean into. So if you look at what people are rejecting, and they're not going to tell you why. They're just not. Usually, sometimes they might, but usually they're not. So you got to look at that and say, okay, for some reason, my rock's getting rejected, my pop's getting rejected. I need to try another genre. I need to figure out where else I can slide in here. So there is that understanding that what you're seeing get rejected tells you what you should be working on is something else, because either that space is already occupied or you're not doing it well enough.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, there's a variety of reasons, but so that's a really key thing. When you get rejected, that's a good thing. That means it's a moment to learn from that rejection. Now you can try again a few other places, and if they all reject it, it's like, okay, I guess I don't have what I thought I had here. Let's move on to something else.
A lot of musicians want the feedback. They want to know why their songs got rejected. Actually, as you were talking about that, I remembered here in chapter 3 of Sing Titan Secrets on page 73. One of the really cool things about this book is we interviewed a lot of music supervisors. A lot. So we have a lot of direct quotes from them here in this book. I'm not going to give all their names since this is just completely open to the public, but inside the book, it does have their names and who's saying what. But here on page 73, a particular music supervisor explains his feedback policy. And he says, I get hundreds of submissions every week. If I spent 5 minutes providing feedback on each one, I'd never have time to actually supervise music. The lack of response isn't personal, it's practical. And that's a direct quote.
Yeah, 100% true. Most people take it personal. Again, coming into it from the music business, having been told, no, my art's no good, again and again and again. And then you don't hear back from someone. I used to respond to everybody. I literally would respond to everybody. And then I started getting some very, very mean responses, some hateful responses, just because I was being honest and trying to help. And I stopped responding. It's also to protect our own well-being.
Yeah. So Jody, what would be another experience? Obviously you've had, you dissected your reasons why there were some rejections. And of course, I'm sure a lot of it was just not the right fit. I mean, there's no way around that.
Look, I think because I've been doing this for over 20 years, I have some really, really strong relationships in this business. So I'm in the minority that I'm actually able to get reasons and feedback on why something was getting rejected. I can get them on the phone or sit down in person and have a meeting still. And what I learned, which it's also a lot of what is in this book here, is that music supervisors, they have to protect their mental health, right? So for years, myself and several colleagues of mine, we would respond to people again and again and again. Send us your music, we'll listen, and we'll tell you why we're not selecting it. And what would happen was, for me personally, I would get some pretty nasty hate mail. I got some pretty nasty snail mail once too, and that was it's kind of scary actually for me and my family. So, we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our well-being. And in all fairness, there's a lot of crazies out there.
Yeah.
And I stopped responding. So it's that saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch, and that's so true because for a long time I would respond to everybody, and now I think it wouldn't. It's just not possible now. There's so many people submitting music. There's only so many that are doing it right, but there's a lot of people submitting music that it's impossible to respond to everybody. But so that was one thing I learned, that people are doing it to protect their psychological well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think that, if you're in the game, you're in the game, right? Like you don't have to know why a play didn't work out. It's kind of like, when you watch football, and someone gets flagged for something and they kind of just stand there, but they actually don't go up to the ref and be like, okay, so really sit down and explain to me exactly why did I get that penalty? Like they don't really do that. They're in the game.
Yeah.
They're in the game. Stuff's going to happen. There's going to be a pass interference call, and they go, oh, that sucked, and I hate losing the yards. And I'm sure they take care of that later on down the road as they, get back into with the team and are able to watch the actual game. But my thought is, if you're in the game and if you're actually competing, if you're submitting, you're going to get a lot more rejections anyway. I've shared this before, but I was at a live event and I was being interviewed. And the host asked me, said at that point, I think I had 2,500 placements or somewhere around there. He started off, he goes, how does someone get 2,500 placements? And my response was, by getting rejected 25,000 times. And that's the key element. Like I've had the placements because I've gotten rejected more than most people will allow themselves to get rejected.
100%. It's the 5%, 10% rule. Yeah. Out of those 3,000, it's interesting you say that, because out of the 3,247 times I was rejected, I've landed 350 placements. So from what was accepted, right? So it absolutely is true. So you've got to get rejected. I think that's the key takeaway for anyone watching this. Rejection is a part of this. Hopefully these stats that we learned, these things that we shared with you from the book, Sync Titan Secrets, and from this study were helpful. But keep going. You're going to get rejected. It's a part of the game. The good thing is you're in the game. So stick with it, and we'll see you on the next video.
If you're interested in getting your songs into your favorite films, TV shows, commercials, trailers, and video games, you're going to want to check out the free guide below.